everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Sideshow Live. Today, if you guys don't know, is February 13th, which marks Galentine's Day. So we are here celebrating some amazing women that we know who are poetic, noble land mermaids in their own right. And that includes people in-house who work at Sideshow, and also we have a couple other special guests who do not work at Sideshow but are friends with us. So if you don't know what Galentine's Day is, I do recommend giving Parks and Recreation a watch. It is on Netflix and it is amazing. And I'm pretty sure it's how I got our first guest here to join by tricking her a little bit. I was like, so Kat,
let's talk Parks and Recreation.
Yeah. I was like, hey, so do you like Parks and Rec? And you were like, I love Parks and Rec. And I was like, so they have a thing? And you were like, oh, Galentine's Day, I totally know what that is. And then I was like, so we'd like to have you on.
And then my face goes.
But here is Kat Sapene. So welcome her to our Galentine's Day episode. Thank you so much, Kat, for joining us.
No problem.
So for those of you who do not know Kat, Kat is a painter here at Sideshow, but she has a very interesting backstory. She has an artist profile on our YouTube channel that we will be showing right after this segment, but you almost had an entirely different career.
I did.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So my family is all very creative and artistic on both sides, but like on my dad's side, there's a lot of architects and engineers. So we have the family in general has a little mix of arts and sciences, and so I went to a science high school and ended up going to college for physics, which I love, and I did well at in high school, and then I was like, oh, maybe I'll take a few art classes, and so I thought I could mix the two, but schedules didn't really work out so well, so at some point I had to kind of make a decision if I wanted to continue with art or science, physics. So I ended up dropping the physics. I stuck with the math aspect of it just to kind of keep myself thinking about that stuff.
Totally.
But yeah, but in the end, I went with art.
Wow. So you're a painter here at Sideshow.
I am, yes.
How do you think your knowledge in science and physics has aided your art?
I think they're very related. I mean, if you go back and look at like Newton and Galileo, I mean, they were doing all of it. They were doing a lot of both.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so, I mean, it informs my decisions and my process really more than anything. It's sort of a joke in the paint team that I'm just very methodical about things. And it's because in my mind, I need things to be sort of organized and thought out, at least to a point. And so it's a part of who I am. There's really nothing I can do to change
that's
that.
fantastic to be able to blend like a scientific mind and then to be able to put it out there in the form of a work of art is kind of incredible to be able to make that transition.
Yeah, I have to I've worked hard to overcome my little OCD tendencies to like really get into the minutiae. It's like, no, step back, you want it to be organic. You know?
That's amazing though, I love it. So one of my favorite parts about visiting your studio is when I see how you've taken something that previously has only been like a mold and cast resin and then bring it to life in a way. Yeah. So how do you take a raw sculpt and make it into something a lot more than that?
So all along the process, the paint team, each painter is kind of assigned to different projects, and so that painter sort of follows the process through sculpt and mold and cast, where we have input as to what makes things a little bit easier for paint, what make it a little bit difficult, or like, hey, if you did this, we could do this really cool effect with it. What do you guys think? And
oh, wow.
So we work with sculpt and design to really formulate a plan for the paint, and then once we get it in hand, we've already got a little bit of an idea of what we want to do, and so we just kind of start plotting and planning how it's actually going to happen.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. So one thing that you and I talk about, especially I'm remembering, I'm remembering like you talk about light source a lot, and that's such an important part. You'll even sometimes turn something so we can look at it in a different way where the light is coming from. So can you explain to the audience a little bit more about how you decide the light source or where the light source is or what that even means when you're looking at a piece?
Yeah, so one of the things that I love about the stuff that we do here at Sideshow is we have a very different approach. We're not just painting a statue, we're trying to paint a little miniature scene and to really give it that sort of realism, what we'll do is we'll paint in a light effect, a light direction, basically. And so we'll start off with the gray resin and just sit there and play around with the desk lamps, move them around and sort of figure out what angle the light looks best at for what's the most flattering for that particular statue.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there, and then I'll usually go around, take pictures of it all the way around, and then turn them black and white so I can really see the lights and the darks. And then as we're painting, and we're painting the highlights where the light hits it and painting the shadows in the shadow areas, but then also stepping back a little bit and being creative. Like, I know that the light's not really hitting this part of the face, but I don't want it to look half and half, like half lit and half not. So, you know, you flood a little bit of light into the other area. And then that's where we're not just following what's actually happening. You're, you know, being a little bit more creative. It's, you know, a lot like a two-dimensional painting where, you know, some things are highlighted in some area to bring them out and bring your attention to it, and some things are sort of shaded to sort of like, oh, you know, imply more depth than is really there.
That's so incredible.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of fun, and I love talking about that with you because I love every time you'll like turn the piece and you'll be like, and then the light would be here, but it could also be coming up as a reflection off of something.
Absolutely.
So sometimes there are more than one light source. So it's a cool challenge for you all to explore your pieces and to try to figure out where the light source is, because also for me, it kind of dictates how I display my collection. Because if you know the light can hit the piece a certain way and bring out certain features, it looks really cool. Now, Kat, you have painted pieces from all kinds of different fandoms.
I have.
Do you have a favorite fandom?
I do. I grew up watching the X-Men cartoon. I love X-Men. I know,
my
it's
God,
so silly.
I never knew this about you. I'm like, you saved it for the show. Oh my gosh.
Did. No,
really?
So at 17, I was working as, I was way too old to be watching cartoons, but actually one of the things that I really wanted to do, before I got into toys and collectibles and things like that, I was actually in animation. And so like I wanted to be in animation. So that was always my excuse to my mom. She's like, you're too old for this. I'm like I'm going to do animation, Mom. So, but I would like have to go work on the weekends, and I'd wake up, watch my X-Men cartoon, and then get dressed and go waitress.
And, you know, you kind of did. I mean, you were doing research for the job and career you wound up having.
I know.
So there you go.
It worked out. It worked out.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite X-Men?
Like Wolverine.
He's
I love Wolverine.
Yes, awesome.
I know it's kind of cliche, but
no,
he's awesome. He just has so
awesome.
much depth. He's like angry but funny and sweet.
And he's so loving. Yeah.
He really is.
Oh my gosh. I love that I just found this out about you. Oh my gosh. Now I'm going to come geek out with you with X-Men stuff all the time. Yes. So before you go, is there any advice you can give to anybody who's watching about having to make a difficult choice between choosing two things that you equally love?
I think I would say you don't always really have to make that choice. Like certain opportunities in life will present themselves, and if it sounds appealing, you kind of just have to go for it. But there's always ways in which that other aspect, that other thing that you love will inform what you do. And so just don't just go, okay, that's dead, that's out of my life, because it's not. It's part of you, and whatever you do, it'll still be there. And just try not to forget about it, and like keep working, keep thinking about how that can inform what you're doing now, even though that's not like directly what you're doing.
That's perfect. Oh my gosh, Kat, thank you so much for being on the show. You guys, we'll be right back with more awesome Galentine's Day goodness. You're watching Sideshow Live.
When I got to college, I realized I needed to make a choice. Physics or art? Growing up, art was definitely encouraged in the house. My mom did a lot of knitting, she did a lot of craft projects, and my dad was an architect. So I was always doing lots of art and craft projects growing up. It was something that I really enjoyed, I could put a lot of myself into. And then there was physics, which I also really enjoyed. I'm a very mechanical person. I like figuring out how things work. And I went to a math science high school, so it was all around encouraged. But I really didn't have an idea of what I could do in either, what my career choices were. I had these two unknowns, and when it came down to it, it really wasn't an easy decision. It was two things that I really loved, And ultimately, I just wanted to have a career that made me happy. To have gone through the struggle of making the decision, it makes you realize, like, okay, I really want to put every bit of me into this thing. To be really cheesy about it, art kind of held a little bit of a light for me. I do paint differently than other people because of the math and the physics and just that scientific background. I'm not looking to decorate the sculpture. The paint on there for me isn't a decoration. I'm painting this like miniature real life scene. I'm trying to make you feel like this is just, you know, a little glimpse into another world. And to do that, all the parts have to fall into place. There can't be any just decorative element for me. For me, it has to really believe what I'm looking at, to believe that this exists in some world. And I think that that's what physics brings to it, is a sense of reality to what you're looking at. One of my college professors once told me that the reason behind the math classes wasn't to learn specifically how to do these math problems. It was to learn how to open my mind and think about things differently. It was a new approach to solving problems. Even though I left physics in college to pursue art, it's still something that follows me every day. It's something that I use all the time. It's something I use in my work. It's something I use in everyday life. Paint is an example of how I look at the world. I mean, everybody paints differently because they look at the world differently. And so the fact that my physics background affects me, it affects the way that I look at the world, and it affects the way that I look at painting and approach painting. It's a part of who I am. My name is Sapene, and I'm a lover of the physics in art.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to our special Galentine's Day episode of Sideshow Live. We've had so many amazing guests today, but today we're also featuring Miss Vanessa Marshall. Hi Vanessa, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh
Thank you. I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. Happy Galentine's Day.
Happy Galentine's Day. So, how's it going?
Everything is fantastic.
Everything's fantastic?
Well, apart from I tried to get you chocolate today and they repaved the entire parking lot of the supermarket, so there was nowhere to park.
How dare they?
I wished I wish I'd thought of it last night.
Oh
I'm
my
so
gosh.
sorry. So I come empty-handed, but full heart.
Full heart, and the thought that counts.
And chocolate.
Totally. So
in the
much
future.
Chocolate.
So we have stuff to look
Actually,
forward
what
to.
you should wait for is the day after Valentine's Day,
Sale.
and then it's all on sale.
Then we hang.
Then
okay,
we
cool.
hang
right
with
on.
all the chocolate.
Very good.
Oh my gosh. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And for those of you who do not know who Vanessa is a voice actress, on-camera actress, writer, producer, you name it. Vanessa's kind of done it, you know.
Stand-up comedy, sketch, all
right.
sorts of strange stuff.
Your resume is just incredible. And then for those of you in geek culture, you are basically played every kick-ass lady that anyone could possibly think of. We have Gamora, Black Canary, Wonder Woman, Black Widow, Mary Jane Watson, Harrison Dula. I even saw that you were like in a mobile game as Domino for something at one point. So like,
what are the odds? Totally
again,
random. Yes.
Any possible geek reference that can be made, you're like in on it.
Yes, and every day is a total adventure. I'm so grateful for each and every one, and they've sort of built. The first playing Mary Jane in Spectacular Spider-Man was amazing, and then of course when the Star Wars gig came along, that was bananas. And
oh my God.
I didn't know anything about the Guardians of the Galaxy, so it was fun to learn about Gamora, and we started doing the cartoon before the movie came out, so no one, I mean, real hardcore comic book people knew obviously about Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was really fun to learn about that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, my goal someday is to play Jean Grey. So maybe.
You have to do all the redheads, so
exactly.
Jean Grey makes total sense.
That's right. We've got Black Widow. We'll knock them down one by one.
One by one, you'll just go through all the
and I do have a thing for green, because of course Gamora's green. And Hera's green. I played She-Hulk, and I played Poison Ivy.
That's right.
So green is the new black, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Sure.
So you, casting directors out there,
any
green character / especially Jean Grey, you're going to have to play.
Right. Well, she would be the redhead department, but yeah.
Yeah, redhead, but she wears green in that one iteration.
Oh,
yep, see?
Girl.
Oh, yeah. So there you go.
Okay.
So in terms of like, because I know that you're also a huge geek.
Total nerd.
Huge. I mean, that's how we became friends in the
I know.
first place. But
moment of silence. Yeah.
But which of these roles was the easiest for you to step into, given your background with like Star Wars and Marvel fandoms? Did you have one that was easier to step into?
Gosh, that's a really great question. I would say, strangely, because of my background in martial arts, about, oh my gosh, when was it? 2001. I weighed about 70 pounds more than I do now. And I started to take up martial arts, and I became sort of a very athletic woman, if you will.
Wow.
And
like a real life superhero is what you're saying.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, although I wouldn't test me either. Like it does kick in at times, but I think I'm not dangerous. I think I'm more there to protect my friends as opposed to like a needlessly violent hockey player or something like that. But you know, they're looking for anyone to just punch in the face. But I will say that once I got my martial arts training, I found myself standing differently at the microphone, and I think it impacted my read, and that combined with my understanding of some of the Marvel characters. Like Black Widow, and I've of course always been a fan of Wonder Woman ever since I was, you know, wearing the underoos, jumping off my bed, wondering why I'm, you know, where's my invisible plane? I had the bracelets, I had the whole thing going on, but yeah, I think that that there were certain things in my life that mirrored some of the character traits of those heroes that perhaps made it easier for me to place my voice and my physicality where it needed to be, with also an understanding of what they need to do to protect themselves and those who can't protect themselves.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So I noticed that I had sort of an affinity for those characters.
Right.
But I'm also a complete dweeb, so you know what I mean is, like, I was playing Irwin in The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and he's a little boy, so you know, I don't know. But I felt much more comfortable stepping up to the microphone with the honor and the challenge of voicing a great character like Wonder Woman or even Black Canary, and any of them, given that I had that physical strength that I had grown into for myself.
And it's interesting because you talk about like Black Canary, Wonder Woman, and stepping into those roles as well. Hera Syndulla, while she might not be like the muscle of the team, you know, that goes to like Zeb, but she definitely has a protective element to her as well.
Absolutely.
So did that also help you step into Hera eventually as well?
Oh, most definitely. I remember reading the copy. That every script was always so well written that everything fell out of my mouth. Just it was magical, and that's not always the case, but there are a number of elements in her personality that I can identify with. Like, I don't have kids, but I'm also very loyal, very nurturing.
You are.
Very protective. I have sort of a dry sense of humor. Not everyone's cup of tea, you know, but I have a heart of gold. There are a lot of things about her that are very similar. And my father is an airplane pilot. I mean, he owns a plane. He was a news reporter for many years, but he has an open cockpit biplane and does aerobatics. And I have gone flying with him, and I've met all of his pilot friends. And it's a very special person who has the focus and also the kind of spirituality that gives them the appetite to get up in the air that high and sort of fly around. My dad says it's his medicine. He gets his perspective.
That sounds like very zen.
Exactly.
In a way.
So there was a spirituality to Hera that I knew very well. And a lot of the pilots are, you know, they're also hilarious.
Yeah.
But I think I was able to bring a lot of that knowledge to Hera, and I think we are politically and ethically aligned, so that wasn't a huge leap. My voice is very similar to Hera's because she really is my heart. So I adore her, and that Rebels was a really, really special experience.
I think Rebels also meant something so much to so many Star Wars fans because it allowed us to see a different part of the galaxy, because you know, it is the saga of the Skywalker family,
right?
But Rebels specifically was like there wasn't really a Skywalker involved. I mean, no spoilers, but like,
right.
But like the main focus was not a Skywalker. It was just this like ragtag crew, and they each had their own journey, but they were still a family, and they still cared very deeply for each other. So it stayed in the theme of the family, but it also was something completely different and completely on its own. And oh my God, I love it so much. Some of the best Star Wars moments come from that show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's very cool to hear.
Now, do you have a character that is particularly difficult for you to step into? Besides, like, the little boy.
No, that actually
that was like,
wasn't,
actually, he's pretty awkward and he's funny.
Trying to think. Well, you know, it's interesting now that I've done a lot of these superheroes. And I need to make somewhat of an effort to distinguish one from the other. So sometimes that presents itself. Like, how do I think I played Medusa in the Avengers, the more recent, the Black Panther show. And, you know, I had to make sure she didn't sound like Gamora or Black Widow or Wonder Woman or, you know, so sometimes it gets a little bit hard because the voices are so close to who I am. You know, my natural speaking voice, I mean, I don't like go out and fight crime or speak Russian or, you know, some of those other details. But anyway, yeah, so that just making sure that everything is authentic, specific, and thorough. And in doing that kind of homework, it makes it distinguished.
Totally.
So.
That's awesome. And now we already kind of covered that you want to play Jean Grey. How would you approach Jean Grey? Oh, gosh, I just love her so much. I don't know. I would have to read the script and see sort of what the scenario is. That's true, because she has such an epic history in comics. Like,
I know.
It would depend on the era. It would depend on, it would depend on so much.
But it would be so much fun to dive in and discover.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I really hope this happens.
Yeah.
So you make a lot of convention appearances because of your line of work. Do you have a favorite convention to go to?
Star Wars Celebration.
Me too.
Is amazing. Yes. Yeah. It's just great. The Star Wars fans are so wonderful. And they're at every convention that I go to. Salt Lake City was also a really fun convention I did. I really started doing them this past year. Orlando was fun. Calgary was fun. Chicago was great. The C2E2 was amazing.
That's awesome.
I don't think there are any I didn't like.
Well, that makes sense because you're like with your people.
Yeah, it's just so much fun, and it's like instant family, and everyone sort of lets their geek flag fly free, and it's just so comfortable and easy, and there's lots of good food and hanging out. The hang is always what makes it special.
Best. Yeah. Oh my gosh, and finding that like little time in the chaos to just kind of chill and be like, how are you?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, to finally catch up. It's so funny because we try to get together and then we end up usually getting our, you know, at San Diego Comic-Con.
We're like in between podiums, like just being like, how are you?
How
are you? And you're like, I have to go to Marvel. Like, cool.
We have to go to San Diego to actually see each other.
Exactly. Do fans cosplay as your characters, and how do you feel about that?
Oh, great.
Yeah?
I love it. Yeah, it's amazing. Are you kidding? Yeah. And I love when they handle sort of the different seasons as well. It's really quite amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
When I was in England this past summer, the Rebel Legion, their cosplay was absolutely brilliant, and they made me an honorary member. It was so lovely. Yeah, and they're really special people.
Did they patch you in?
Patch? Oh, with patch? Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I didn't know if you meant like, you know.
No. Yes, because you're Hera, so you have to be like, okay, I need to check I'm patched in. Yeah. My communicator's going. Yeah.
Exactly.
Totally. But that's like because I just joined the Rebel Legion last year, and so there was like a big thing where they like patch you in. It's like a thing.
No, that
really cool.
and I got a plaque, and it was just I was crying. It was really special.
God, that must mean so much to you. As a lifelong
Star
Wars fan.
I mean, and I have an entire room that's sort of full of Star Wars things. I think I need like another building to put all the fun things that fans have given me, and you know, it's my special room.
Do you have a particular memory with a fan that just stands out to you as something that was like touching or funny or?
Gosh, there are a million, truly. There was one at Dragon Con. There was a boy, and we're friends on Facebook. He came up to me and he asked for an autograph, and his dad came up afterwards with tears in his eyes and said, I want you to know that wasn't just any autograph. my son is actually on the spectrum, and he only feels comfortable when Hera is on the television. And so when you gave him that autograph, that really meant the world to him. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's the thing with Lucasfilm and Disney, that they are so heartfelt. I know. It meant the world. And he's an amazing artist too. He really is. He's absolutely brilliant, this kid. You know, that Lucasfilm touches people in a way that transcends language, any issue, cultural. We are one at a certain point when we're dealing
one
with
galaxy.
When we're dealing with the human condition and things that we all struggle with, because I think adulting is hard, life is weird, and you know, we all want to like break down and cry, and like I only want to feel comfortable when Han Solo is on television.
Right.
Like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, but to a certain extent, we're united in that way, and it felt bigger than just a job that I had done. It felt like something that actually made a difference, and that made me really grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that story. Please tell that story forever, everywhere. Wow. So I guess this actually kind of leads right into, how does it feel to be a Star Wars fan entering the galaxy and being a part of the history of the rebellion?
There really are no words to describe what that feels like, which is not good for an interview. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Because you want to find those words, okay? Use your words.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was speechless, and I think it hit me my first Star Wars weekends. I was in Florida, and Peter Mayhew was celebrating his birthday, and a big, huge Millennium Falcon cake came out, and it was his 79th birthday, if I'm not mistaken, and he had surgery to be able to walk. He walked to the cake, blew out the candles. Mickey gave me a set of Mickey Mouse ears, and Ahmad Best was there, and James Arnold Taylor, and we're all sort of like dancing on stage. I had to take a knee. Like I went into the ladies' room and I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I'm sorry, whose life is this?
Yeah.
Like, what just happened to me?
Yeah.
I'm a huge Falcon fan. Like the Millennium Falcon is like my deal. Like that's my vehicle. Even though I understand Hera should say
the ghost. I get
right,
it.
whatever.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
But I'm like OG Star Wars person, and so that's Chewie. My first action figure was Chewie. It's now off card, but you know, I was young, I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But no, to leave it alone.
No,
but
I have the original R2. That I just have him because I didn't know.
So
I didn't know.
You know, the fact that I would even meet the man who played Chewbacca, I just never thought that any of this would transpire. I truly did not.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of like my religion, if you will. It was something very sacred, like the spiritual journey that's described in the Star Wars saga. I mean, you know, there's no mystery. You know, he loved Joseph Campbell and this idea of the hero rising to the occasion and the hero's journey and all these opportunities for all of us to sort of hold on to that and dare ourselves to do that in our own lives. That's what Star Wars gave me growing up.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand anything but that.
Right.
That made sense to me.
Totally.
And I was so grateful for it. So to be interacting with it and celebrating Chewie's birthday was sublime. Absolutely sublime.
I love that.
You know, then of course like Hera goes on to
be a part of all of that.
Yeah,
too.
to interact with Lando, like when she punches him and says, "You owe me," I immediately thought of Cloud City. You know, Freddie was like, "Dude," you know, "Dude," because Lando owes Hera the Rebel Alliance. A solid. Is that why, you know, he gave an assist on Cloud City later on? I don't know. I'm just saying.
He does owe.
Just saying.
Yeah. It could have been Hera's
even the
favor.
Fact that we
oh
were,
my gosh.
Even the fact that we were sort of entertaining ideas like that, our minds were just absolutely blown. And then, of course, to have her name mentioned in Rogue One and to see that she survives, you know, in the Forces of Destiny.
And she makes the Battle of Endor. She has a child.
Who knew?
Like,
it's bananas.
Yeah.
Absolutely bananas.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
And so what parts of your personal fandoms and passions do you bring into your work? It's such a silly question because it's like
of
the whole thing. Everything she talked about.
Well, I guess if I had to reduce it to one thing, I would say that I love a good story. And whether that story is in a comic book or a novel or a film, and you know, obviously all the different fandoms live in those various worlds. So I bring good stories to stories I'm trying to tell. Like even when I got the Star Wars script, I didn't know what it was. And I applied my Star Wars awareness to the script because it felt like Star Wars to me. But sometimes I'll do that just to ground myself in the specificity of what I know about, say, the world of DC or the world of Marvel. Or, so it's wonderful to be versed in those things, to be able to take a little from column A, a little from column B, and create something unique. So
I love that. You're like making like a cake.
Yeah, yeah.
To bring it back to cake.
Yes,
yes.
Always back to cake.
And what advice do you have for people who are watching right now regarding following their passions?
Oh man, I would say find your joy. This year, the word that keeps coming up for me is joy. I think there are so many challenging things going on the planet in general that I think if one pursues joy, they find their voice. And when they find their voice, they speak up and they speak out for what is right. And I feel like the rest will follow. You know, like any kind of sort of financial fears or, you know, fear of accomplishing goals, X, Y, and Z. I think if there's no joy, if it's no fun, there's no point. So I've kind of returned to a very simple ideology of if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. And that doesn't mean I mean I go to the gym. That's not always fun, but I do it anyway. Yeah. That's a different construct. But I would just say pursue your joy with fearlessness and reckless abandon and see what happens. Why not?
Yeah,
we have nothing to lose.
That's true.
We might as well laugh on our way.
That's
you know.
True.
So that would be my advice.
Oh my God,
that's what I'm doing. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll let you know if it works.
I love that so much. And it's in Hera's voice, you guys.
Hey.
So yeah, so it means something. The captain of the ghost.
There, you have your orders.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Vanessa, thank you so much for being here today. Happy Galentine's Day.
Woo! Happy Galentine's Day.
And you guys will be back right after a short break. You're watching Sideshow Live. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Galentine's Day Spectacular. Today today we have a very special guest that, despite the fact that you've been here quite a few times now.
I've been trolling you guys.
A little bit.
Stalking, just, you know, hiding outside the building at times, waiting in the bushes.
It's super funny that you say that because, like, you're waiting in the bushes, but Steve says that he has camped out inside the building. So,
well, that's breaking and entering. At this point, I'm just stalking.
Okay,
so,
cool. So you're not committing the full felony that he is.
One of us has to be outside of jail so that they can bail the other one out. And
that's a good partnership right there.
For this company, he's inside, I'm out.
Okay, great. And then for, okay. Yeah. So please welcome to the studio for the first time, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Hi, Mary.
Hi. I'm doing my queen wave with She-Ra's arm.
You have to do the twist, like.
Well, there's the outside, but she's really, she's like,
So hello. Mary Elizabeth has worked on everything from Cowboy Bebop and Ghost in the Shell to Tangled Ever After and She-Ra Princesses of Power. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Yes.
And recently you even have voice directed your first Star Wars Resistance episode.
Yes.
That is so amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's quite a resume. And this is just like tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg.
It goes
crazy.
so deep because every time I'm watching something, I feel like, oh, there's Mary's voice.
My doctors find it's good to keep me occupied.
I see.
Yes.
I see. Because even
distracted.
Carmen Sandiego, you are a voice of kind of her mentor, essentially.
Coach Brunt. I'm just doing Matthew McConaughey. That's it. It's so much fun.
And that show is so good. So if you guys haven't checked it out on Netflix, you definitely should. Oh my gosh, it's fun. So what got you started in animation?
Well, I came out to LA to be on Star Trek because I was always a Trekkie, and I had a very extensive theater training background. I went to school and stuff, and spent a lot of time.
How have we never talked about you being a huge Trekkie before?
Oh my God, like that's all I wanted to be. When I was in grad school, like studying acting in grad school, and we're doing Shakespeare and Greek tragedies and everything else, I would go home, and because Next Generation was on, and I was just, and the Borg episode, and that was like, that's it. And I was in Texas, so I was right in the middle of the country. And at the last year of grad school, I got to do a show off Broadway. And the last day that I was there, like I was leaving the next day, and someone broke into my car and stole everything that I had. So I said, well, New York doesn't want me, so I'm going to keep heading west, which is what I really want to do anyway, and I want to be on Star Trek. And that was my dream. Everyone was like, I'm going to be on Broadway, and I was like,
you're like, I would like live long and prosper.
I would like to live long and prosper where it's warm.
Yeah.
Because it's warm.
And it's beautiful here.
It's beautiful here. Yeah. So I got to be on Star Trek Voyager, which was pretty awesome.
Oh my God, what episode are you in?
I don't remember the name, but it was 4 hours of makeup, and I looked like a sea monkey, which was pretty awesome.
Oh my God, I'm gonna look for you.
And I got to hold a phaser and pilot a shuttle. And
that's like the dream.
Meet Kate Mulgrew in sick bay, which was great. And I was doing a character at the time in anime who had I was basically doing Kate Mulgrew at the time, the voice. So when she came in the last day and she was like, "So how was your time on Voyager?" I was like, it was very good.
You're like,
I
was
like, it's the last day. They can't fire me on the last day.
Right?
Yeah, they can.
They still probably could.
But
they didn't.
But they
and
didn't.
You achieved like major dream.
I did.
Right,
that was a major dream. So I was still doing some on camera, not a lot, and I was doing Xena, and I was playing Pandora's granddaughter that the villagers hated. So the first scene, they hang me on a horse. Well, I'm on a horse. They put the noose on. So the horse I was on, a horse named Cher, started my voiceover career because she reared up, fell on top of me, dislocated my kneecap, and when I came back to LA, I started doing voiceover because I was sort of incapacitated at the time. So a friend of mine recommended me to Zero Limit Productions that did Ghost in the Shell and Trigun and Akira. So I started doing that, and I kept working for them more and more, and they had a real wonderful habit of hiring women to direct.
That's awesome.
Kevin Seymour it was Kevin and his Angels, and they had too many shows and not enough directors. So Yutaka Maseba and Kevin Seymour called and said, "So how would you like to direct?" And I said, "I'm terrified." So yes, of course, I would love to.
That's amazing.
And it was Cowboy Bebop. So I remember seeing they brought me and they showed me the opening tank sequence, and I just said, "Why am I getting this show? This is really..."
Because your life has led up to this moment.
I guess. And that was it. So I had no idea that that's something I wanted to do, and yet the minute I started doing it, it was like being shot out of a cannon, and I really have not stopped directing since then. So
that's amazing.
And it was such a beautiful show. And,
God, amazing show.
Yeah, I mean, the show itself given to us was exquisite, and it was sort of our job not to screw it up. And since none of us knew what we were doing, we had a really good shot of screwing it up, but we got
somehow.
We never thought anybody would see it. That's the thing. There wasn't any Toonami at the time. There was no place where anime could be seen. So we just thought, well, we'll just make it for us. You know, when I was directing Steve and Wendy and Bo and Melissa, I just said, you know what? Let's do away with the old idea of what anime is supposed to sound like and what it had sounded like for a while, because this is such a westernized show.
Right.
So let's make it more cinematic. Let's make it more naturalistic.
Totally.
And just make it for us. It's more adult, so let's make it adult. We're not have to do it for the kids. Let's do it for the parents, you know.
Oh my God. My brother and I have like a 6-year age gap, and so it was always really difficult growing up to like like relate to him, and Cowboy Bebop was something that we sat down and watched together every time we could find it anywhere.
That's so
and
nice.
So it was like we still talk about, you know, See a Space Cowboy. Like when we you know, we don't see each other that often anymore because we're both all grown up, but See a Space Cowboy is like our sign off.
Oh,
so
that's
great.
so nice. Well, Steve and I just watched he watched the whole series because he had never seen it front to back.
What?
I know. He'd seen bits and pieces out of order, but it makes a difference when you see it front to back. So, or beginning to end, front to back.
You're thinking of a book.
I'm thinking of Spike.
Yeah.
I love Spike.
Oh,
Yay! And a book,
Yeah.
And so I watched the last 4 episodes with him, and it's still, to this day,
I still cry.
So impactful, and it's
moving.
So moving, and I'm so proud of the work that we did. Especially, you know, there's something to be said for just winging it. I really believe that's the secret to adulthood, is that we're all just winging it until we get good at it. And even then we're still, because hopefully things evolve and everything else. But pretty much winged that one pretty good.
I'm pretty sure you nailed it when you winged it? Wanged it. Wanged.
When you wang something.
Yeah. And that is the new hashtag wang it.
Yes, just wang it.
just
wang it. Shirts.
Yep,
just
wang it. You'll see it next time. So there's obviously big differences between voice acting and voice directing.
Yeah.
But how do you approach a character? What are the subtle differences when you're looking at a character? The difference between like voicing that character or directing that character?
Well, voicing it is one thing. I rely a lot on my director to sort of steer me in. I'll come in with my instinct on it. And like for Brunt, Coach Brunt and Carmen Sandiego, I auditioned with a very, you know, sort of, I saw her as a very much a Jane Lynch style character. And I came in and they wanted her Southern, so I just went full Southern. And then I'd seen these commercials of Matthew McConaughey selling cars, and I was like, that's so strange. And he'd always kind of talk like this down in there. And I just thought it was an amazing voice print. So the more we did her, the more I realized I'm just doing Matthew McConaughey, my own version of it, of course. But you
It's so funny because she's so like maternal.
Yeah.
I like to think of Matthew McConaughey as being like this mother of an assassin.
Yes.
Or thief.
No, it's my lambkins. You gotta love my lambkins. But
Black sheep.
And my black sheep, But when you're an actor, you sort of hyper focus on where you fit in to the big picture. And as a director, you are hyper-focused on the big picture. You have to know where the story is going. You have to know where the characters fit in as we go, so you get a real evolution, an arc to a character. And not only how that character has an arc, but how that character's arc fits into the entire story that's trying to be told, you know? Wow. So it's always my job not to get lost in the moment of that microcosm of one line. It's like, well, how many different ways can we do this line? It's just like, what's the context? You know, so really hyper-focus on the context of where we are, knowing that you've got to pull out and see the big picture, otherwise it won't make any sense in terms of, why are you whispering when there's an alarm going on? You know, I mean, so it's just looking at the big picture.
Wow. Really. Do you have a favorite character that you've voiced?
Batman. I am Batman.
You're Batman?
I am Batman.
Everyone's going to Google when you played Batman.
Oh, they'll never find it.
Because she's Batman.
Because I am Batman.
She's the Knight.
You'll
never find it.
I'm the Dark Knight. You know, I can't pick. There are a couple roles that have changed the trajectory of my life.
Let's talk about those then.
Okay, so Julia and Bebop, obviously. I was so madly in love with Spike and with Steve's voice as Spike, Steve Bloom. And when Spike kept talking about Julia, I said, well, I don't care if she sounds like she's up in here, I'm going to play her because I'm obsessed with Spike and I need to live out this very twisted fantasy of being
No, I get it.
Weirdly attracted to a...
We get it. Yeah. Any woman watching the show who has watched Cowboy Bebop gets it.
Yep.
Trust me.
Yeah. So, but that role more changed what I wanted to do because I knew at that moment that not only playing that role but directing that show, that this is what I'm meant to do. All this work that I didn't understand in graduate school about developing characters, all the improv work, everything else, breaking down a script, was leading me up to being a voice director. So I was like, oh, okay. And then when I was doing on camera, I played a lot of abused women and women who needed to be rescued. From Chuck Norris, Lorenzo Lamas, Scott Bakula, you know, so I was constantly being saved. And that kind of bleeds into your psyche after a while when you start having to inhabit these frail, sort of stereotypically frail women that are being abused and that need to be saved. And it started to affect me. And it wasn't until I played the Major in Ghost in the Shell, she helped me find my strength. And I said, oh, okay, so now I can tap into that part of myself. And that changed everything. And then I think Governor Price on Star Wars Rebels, because that was my first foray into the Star Wars. Jean foray into the Star Wars
That
universe.
was one I never realized was you until like someone had to tell me that like that's also. And I was like, really?
Evil Governor Price.
I don't want her to be evil.
She was awesome.
She
Come on.
is
If there's
awesome.
anyone
She's
who
really
loved her
awesome, and
job.
I'm not dark side at all. But she
had an iPad for torture.
And
I mean, it was pretty amazing.
She was like poster girl for the Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what it's like to be a woman who craves that much power and is ineffective at it, and what that does to someone.
Totally.
To a woman in that position. It was sort of amazing to explore.
Yeah.
And really fun.
I can see how much you like. Your face just was like that. And you're like,
it was great.
So fun.
It was
awesome.
It was great. It was terrible to break up a family. You know, and no spoilers, but it was hard to do what she did. But still, it was pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, they put me on the complete opposite side of the studio from everyone else.
Really?
So I got to sort of play around, you know, and watch this family dynamic happen, and then be the one to try and tear it all down. Wow. It was great. It was great. It's the easiest character. For me, it was the easiest character I've ever played in terms of tapping into something, which probably says a lot about my psyche. It's probably not a good thing to say. The easiest character I've ever played was a woman who loved to torture other people and kill people. But she was, I knew the voice instantly. And for some reason, she was just easy. She was like a warm bath of hate that you could just sink down into. And I don't know why.
You're baffling me right now because that is not how I feel about you whatsoever as a human being.
I know, I'm not that way.
Which might be the reason, because if you're so not that character, being able to like you said, take a bath in the warm hate for a second, it probably feels pretty good.
Sometimes. Yeah, I know, because I'm not that way.
Exactly. Now, beyond all the amazing work you've done in animation and live action, you are probably one of the biggest Alien fans I have ever met in my whole life.
Oh my God. All right, Alien came out, was it 1976? Somebody
here knows this.
Someone know. Hayes.
Yep. Jeff? I want to say.
Was it 78?
Okay, that's fair. I just know Aliens was 86.
Yeah. Anyway, when it came out, I was old enough to be alive when it came out, but I wasn't old enough to get in without parental supervision. And I remember being on a bus heading into New York City to see a show, I think, with the Girl Scouts. And my mom was sitting next to one of the den mothers behind me, and she said, "Have you seen this movie, Alien?" And I just sort of leaned back and heard the entire description of what the movie was like. And as we were driving into New York, you had the huge billboards of just the egg. And in space, no one can hear you scream. So I had no idea what this movie is. And I was instantly like,
needed to see it.
What is this? So I got a book and I read the book. They did a graphic, well, they did end up doing a graphic novel, which I also bought and obsessed over. Like the centerfold was John Hurt chest burster that actually folded out. It was amazing. But I read the book and I became obsessed with it. I don't know why. I just loved it. And I think it was because of Ripley. Yeah. She's the last person in the world I think you expected to be the one that would survive.
Right.
It was just an unbelievable thing. And I don't remember seeing a female character like that.
Right.
You know, to come out and be the sole survivor of this pretty much by happenstance. I mean, it's nothing. When she set Parker and Lambert down, you know, to get the oxygen tanks. Yeah. I think it just happened to be that the alien keyed in on them and she went up to get Jones, you know, instead. So Yeah, I'm such a nerd for
No,
Alien.
I love it.
Like Jones, I had a cat named Jones for 16 and a half
now
years.
what's your cat's name?
Now I have 2 giant cats, and they're named Ash and Bishop.
Yeah. So
Nerd alert. Yeah, completely.
Would you want to ever tackle Ripley? Take that how you want to?
Just to give her a big old hug. Yeah, there's something. What I love about her is that she's so heroic, but there's also something so tragic about her, because she gets back to Earth and it's not the same, and she's so traumatized, and then she finds Rebecca or Newt, you know, so there's this unbelievable, tragic, sad, melancholic aspect to her, and I think that's fascinating. I just think that's absolutely fascinating. That however, I mean, you know what I'd love to do is to do like a one-shot based in the world of Alien. I think that would be really fun, like a D&D thing. But in terms of, I just hope that we can, like, for instance, I've been working on She-Ra, and there's a similar sense of melancholy behind all of this, you know, for very different reasons. But there's something about heroic women that underneath all of that, there's sometimes there can be a very strong note of tragedy, which is interesting. So I think Ellen Ripley's story is probably done, and I think that's wonderful. It's like Bebop. It's like, just leave it alone, you know. Don't
but a one
pick
shot
it up again
in that world.
Yeah, that would
with
be kind of fun.
Character. Ooh.
Yeah.
Now you brought up She-Ra, and I just adding a question really quickly. So Catra and She-Ra and their amazing relationship.
Yeah.
How did you like flesh that out? Because it's so well done in the voice acting specifically. Like it's not just in the animation; it's in, you know, Amy Carrera and AJ. Oh my gosh,
they're amazing. Well, we bring them in together for most sessions, but some sessions we don't. So I get to be Catra. I've played every character on every originally animated show that I've ever worked on, because I get to read with the actors, which is amazing. So, but it's the two of them, and it's their dynamic, and it's a really common tension between friends. And I don't know if it's female specific or not, but it's just the one person, you know, your best friend gets promoted before you do and starts to look to other things and trusts someone more than they trust you. And the minute you feel that sense of, I'm being shunned, I'm not being listened to, I'm not getting what I feel like is mine, you know, and this jealousy comes in. Sometimes you just have a friend where everything goes their way. And in their minds, it's the complete opposite.
Way,
it's just like, I don't want this. I'm doing this for you. And so this conflict, very common
I think that's what made it so relatable.
Yeah.
Because I watched it with a girlfriend of mine, and we were constantly like, sometimes I was Adora and she was Catra, and sometimes I was Catra and she was Adora. Like it was a really crazy. And then when you add in Glimmer, like the whole, oh, but there's a shiny new friend over here, and Catra feels like, oh,
I have an identical,
so complex.
Yeah, I have an identical twin. And oh my gosh. So I know that dynamic very well.
Wow.
Very, very well. But it's beautifully written. Noelle Stevenson has done, and Josie and all the writers just did such an amazing job to key into these characters. The casting of Amy and AJ and Karen and Marcus, it's just brilliant. So I think a lot of times as a director, you get in there, and for me, it's like context is key. So I put them in the world very descriptively. I'm sort of passionate about, you know, describing the world and where they are, and they key into that, and then it's just...
That world is so visual.
Yeah.
Because each of the different kingdoms with the different princesses is like a whole different map that they have to create.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also feel like on a lot of shows, I think Amy was talking about this, and she says, well, and when I'm doing Eleanor.
I was like, Amy's also a princess
I know,
in her
she's
own
a princess,
right.
but she'll do these, you know, standard, you know, great take, what you expect, or something that is, you know, very, I understand, a very logical response, a way of responding. And then she just gives sort of one crazy take, you know, and then She-Ra will take all the crazy takes. So much so that the regular sort of expected response is almost abandoned, and we take the quirks. And what I love about the show is that all of the princesses, all of the characters, we highlight and put a spotlight on what makes them unique, their weirdness, how they are not perfect, and it's just we're all quirky, and a lot of the times I feel like society sort of says, behave, play normal, act like everyone else, and on our show, no, embrace your quirkiness, embrace what makes you weird and unique, because we're all on the island of misfit toys, and there's nothing wrong with it,
I love hearing you say that, because that's exactly what I know I got from the show, and I know so many people who watch it, both male, female, like all over the place, like they feel that way too, where it's like, oh, I really love Mermista, or I really or they're just picking these different princesses because that's what's weird about them.
And that's what makes them awesome and wonderful and unlike anyone else.
I love that Mermista is like the water princess, but she's grossed out by dirty water, which like makes total sense to me, because she would want her water to be clean, but she's not afraid to go into the dirty water, but she's also going to acknowledge this is gross. So I'm like, oh, that's so relatable.
But she's also the water princess whose performance is the driest on the show. I know. Somebody put a compilation of all the together, which is like my favorite
Mermista, I definitely attached to her because I have a very dry sense of humor. So I was like, oh, Mermista, I get her.
I love Entrapta. Christine. Science! It's just, it's the greatest. Everybody's got such different vocal quirks to their, and it's just the sound of the show is so diverse.
Yeah, and I loved the just random addition that, oh, right, Scorpia is a princess.
Yeah.
You just think she's like a warlord, but she's a princess. She has her own kingdom. Just deal with that.
Yep.
It's great. So how has the passion that you feel for like your fandoms, like, anime or Star Trek or Aliens, do you think that's fueled you moving forward and the decisions you've made in your life and career?
Oh, I couldn't have a normal job to live. Again, I think I've also, it's interesting that She-Ra came along at this time, because I am now embracing my own quirkiness and weirdness, and I am weird. I'm a weird duck. I'm very odd, very goofy, and so I feel like working on shows like Star Wars and She-Ra and Tangled.
It's another show about being okay with being different, and the way that you are is perfectly normal, whatever that is.
What I think is Tangled is really about the rest of the world realizing that it's okay to be this shoeless hippie princess, and that's all fine and good, but I feel like if I didn't, I don't know what else I would do, being a part of all of these worlds that fueled my imagination as a child, and throughout my entire life, that I get to actually continue to work on shows like this. I mean, I watched She-Ra when I was a kid, and He-Man and Thundercats, and to be a part of this, it's like growing up, I never thought, I was like, oh, I can.
Now you're voice directing.
I don't know. Yeah, how did that happen? I don't know how that happened. Oh, I know how that happened, because Noelle Stevenson and I geeked out over D&D during our initial meeting, and I'm pretty sure we were both playing Tiefling Warlocks at the time. I'm pretty sure that's how I got the job.
That's amazing. Because I'm pretty sure I got my Sideshow job by geeking out over Lord of the Rings with my boss.
See? Yeah. That's all you need sometimes.
Yeah. You just need to connect to someone on that, like, hey, we both have these quirks. Let's
so you're going to understand my weird references, and that's all you need sometimes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also really want to bring up, because you're talking about embracing your quirks, and something awesome I've noticed recently via your social media is you're part of a girl band that does covers.
No, this is Kari Wahlgren's baby.
Okay.
And she grew up in a very sort of strict way, and all of a sudden in I would guess the 90s, she discovered Slaughter, this hair band. And she decided to do, I am going to do...
Slot Her.
Slot Her. So it's an all-female band, and when she told me about it, I was like, if you need anyone to sing backup, I'm your girl. And she said, really? And that was it. So we did the show at the Federal, and we're doing another show at the Federal on February 21st. And it's all of us, and it's Kari's dream.
That's
and
amazing.
It's amazing.
So,
it's so much fun.
And part of it is like embracing your quirks with your friends.
100%.
Awesome.
Look, let's, I think Ashley Johnson got up when she won her BAFTA, and she's just like, this is for the misfits. This is for the kids who nobody wanted to sit with at lunch. It's just like, you can always come sit by me. And Ashley said it perfectly. It's just like, I'm a misfit and I embrace my absolute weirdness. I think it makes me who I am, and it has brought me such joy and success to be able to say, yeah, that's me. And especially at my age now, it's just like, I don't have the fuzz to give anymore, if you know what I'm saying.
No.
So I'm just going to be me. And if you don't like that, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So one last thing is, what would you tell our audience if you were going to give them a piece of advice about following their passion?
Embrace your weirdness.
Yeah.
Embrace your quirks. It'll lead you in a direction you may not anticipate. So be open for the unexpected. Because I came here to LA to be an on-camera actor, and now I have been so happy being a voiceover director, and I wouldn't have even known about this had I not been open to what basically the universe, like that phone call, if I had said, we've got too many shows, we need another director, do you want to? If I had said no to that opportunity because I needed to be an on-camera actor, I wouldn't be here. Yeah. I wouldn't be here. So just always be open. It doesn't mean you have to take all those opportunities, but be open to the opportunities that are presented to you. Because yes, and it's that unexpected thing that you're just like, you know what? I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to jump out of the plane, and just trust that that my parachute will open. Sometimes it won't, but 9 times out of 10, I firmly believe when you just say, I'm going to take this risk and see what happens, because you learn so much from failure. You learn so much more from failure than success, so embrace your weirdness and be open to what the universe presents to you, because you may be surprised.
I love it so much. Yeah. Well, happy Galentine's Day.
Happy Galentine's Day. Oh my gosh.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Mary, for being here. We will be right back after this break.
Shira's waving. Bye.
It was the first week of college, and I was given this assignment to draw something that shows a lot of contrast. I decided to sketch a tree, and I was really getting into giving it that really dark, moody feel and vibe. The light on the tree was just so beautiful. I thought, what if I tried to snap a photo of it and see if I can do what I'm doing with charcoal and paper onto a photograph? With like a week's worth of Photo 101 knowledge, I just started firing away. Used up the entire roll, spent a little time in the darkroom just working with that exposure, and I was finally able to produce a photo that was really similar to looking like what I was trying to draw. That photograph got me so excited that I was able to do this and convey a very similar feeling, and I was able to capture it in like 1/200th of a second. That really opened up my eyes to the magic of light and photography, and I was hooked immediately. I knew the biggest challenge for me to overcome was going to be my extremely shy personality. It kept me from putting myself in those situations where I would actually talk to people and get past that social awkwardness that I had. I knew that in order for me to actually get commissioned for any type of jobs, that I'd have to overcome that. I started off by simply enrolling in the school paper. Taking on the job as a photojournalist gave me that push where I was put out there. I'd go out and shoot street photography, concert photography, and through that I met a lot of new people, made a lot of new friends in this new world, but it opened up my eyes to the possibility that maybe I could do this as a living. The camera served as sort of a sense of security, but after a while you forget that it's about the photography assignment, and you really start getting to know people and hearing about their stories. I was able to actually lose that wall that I had to talk to people and get to know them. I think the job here at Sideshow is the ultimate reward, where I have a career in something that I love to do. The creative freedom that I'm given here with the photography, I'm telling the stories of these characters traveling to new worlds with each photo shoot. It really makes me look back and realize how much I actually have accomplished and how worth it was to push past those obstacles.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a very special episode of Sideshow Live. This is our Galentine's Day episode, and we are here to celebrate the amazing women that we know and love outside of Sideshow, but also the women that we work with here every single day. So today, we welcome for the very first time in studio, Robin Selvaggi. Yay! Hi, Robin. Hi, how's it going?
It's going really well.
Good. Well, a lot of you might recognize Robin from doing various press tours, booth tours. She goes to all of our conventions with us. But what you might not know about Robin is that she is one of the founders of Sideshow and remains to this day one of Sideshow's owners. So that is such an amazing thing. Oh my gosh, it's so lovely to have you on the show. So Robin, tell us a little bit. How did you get involved with Sideshow in the first place?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's been 25 years actually.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know.
It went
Congrats.
By, whoa! Like that. I actually was working on the East Coast, and I classically trained illustrator and painter actually. I painted to pay the bills in between college. So they needed some freelance work. So I came out here to do the freelance work with them. And what was a 2-month assignment turned into 25 years.
Wow, oh, that's pretty amazing. So I'm sure that this is far too long of a journey to just do in a segment of a show, but from a painter, freelance to owner, what's the Cliff's Notes version of that particular tale?
Wow. The interesting thing is you never know. You start out your journey doing something and you could get in the middle of your journey and you're doing something completely different, which is a great thing. Some people don't see that as a great thing, but it's
really special.
It is. It's exciting. It doesn't get boring.
Right, absolutely.
So when I came out, I was mainly painting actually, and then I was working in the shop, and I actually did, let's see, painting, mold making, sculpture cleanup, and we had to do some advertising. And I said, oh yeah, I do that. And they're like, what? You do that? Yes, I do that. So I ended up doing all that plus the graphics for the packaging.
Yeah, I remember one time you and I were in the hallway and there were some old boxes of some of the Star Trek busts, and you were like, oh, I did. You're like, I did that. Right? I know. And I just was like, what? And that was the first time I found out that was something that you had done in the past. So well,
over the years, I transitioned out of doing those things, and now I'm primarily in marketing. And so it's a bit startling sometimes when people do find out that I've done that stuff. But I think for me, it's exciting, but it's also, I think it keeps me being sensitive when I'm dealing with the artists and I'm dealing with the graphic designers, because I know it drives people crazy when you give them like 10 changes and different waves of making them redo the art until it gets finished. So it's like, okay, I'm sorry. You know, I usually apologize up front. I'm sorry to do this to you. It's coming, but I'm sorry to do it. But I'm sorry. Yes, I have to make this change.
So do you have any, while we're talking about the earlier days of Sideshow, do you have any stories that you want to tell that you're willing to share, that you can share on a show?
I can't, well, I have stories. What I probably can share, it slows down from there.
That's cool.
You know, it's been an amazing journey, just meeting the different people that we've had over the 25 years between in-house talent and artists and graphic designers and cut and sew and people that, you know, when we started in the early, or actually mid-90s, we knew a lot of people from the effects industry and the movie industry. So we were very blessed in those relationships, and eventually started working with them. Because they're like, hey, you guys have work for us? Sure, come on in.
Oh my gosh.
So the original group was kind of people that fled the movie industry.
So they're like very eclectic people, very well-rounded type of like interesting humans to be around on a daily basis.
It was. It was like a lot of different personalities, a different, you know, wacky things happening. And at one point we moved buildings. We grew, which is always nice. And we found this building to rent that was literally right down the street. And the way that it was set up is not only was it down the street by like 500 feet, it was down the hill. And we didn't have money at that time to rent a big moving truck and all that. So the artists, and I have to say I was one of them, decided that it would be a great idea and it would help the move along faster if we tied everything to office chairs and rolled them down the hill. We lost a lot of office chairs, and I think the printer took a nosedive.
Oh no!
And it's like you're trying to rub the dirt off the printer, and
you're
hopefully
like, no,
it works.
this will still work.
Yeah,
we can still hook these up to computers.
It wasn't one of our finest moments, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah,
actually.
And that's
now that you have
story.
distance on it, it's very funny.
Yeah, but at the time you're like, okay, oops.
Right. Sorry.
So part of why you're such an excellent leader here in the office, and
is this you're sucking up, right?
it's a little bit.
Yeah.
I know I'm not under any sort of delusion that I'm not interviewing my boss right now. So you're a geek in your own right. You've told me so many stories about watching Star Trek as a kid.
Right.
So do you have anything about your love for Star Trek that kind of evolved into actually your love for sci-fi in general is epic?
I had a feeling you were going to bring Star Trek.
Yeah, of course, Star Trek.
Well, when I was younger, I didn't have a lot of friends, and my family thought I was a little strange. But I remember getting up late at night, sneaking down in front of the TV, and it's like, big TV, looks like a piece of furniture. And at that time, you had to get up to change the channel. I know that's shocking. Yeah. You had to get up, walk, change the channel, and I was so lazy I didn't want to change the channel. So I just watched whatever came on. And one of the series was Star Trek, and also Godzilla, which was awesome. But I did catch a lot of Star Trek reruns, and I was just fascinated. I thought the job of the captain was to kiss women. Kirk did that a lot.
That is one interpretation.
Like, he did more kissing and chasing of women than actually sitting
and
in the captain's chair.
Captaining. Yeah, that's a thing. Sure, piloting the ship.
And I couldn't figure out why they didn't look behind the rock. Like, they were always being attacked by things that were behind the rock. And it happened like this the episode before, so do you people not learn? And I was like 7 or 8, and I'm understanding
oh my God,
that you check behind the rock. Check behind the rock, right? So
next time we go to a convention, I'm just gonna be like, Robin,
check behind the rock.
Check behind the rock. If you can't find it, check behind the rock.
So you fast forward to Galaxy Quest.
Oh yeah.
To Guy. They're gonna kill Guy. I'm like, yes, they're checking behind the rock. I think that's really what I loved about Galaxy Quest, because it brought up all the points that I had as a kid talking to the TV. It's like, you're not checking, and why is he, kissing the women, and why are like the guys in the red shirts being killed all the time? They just and they walk into a puddle and they're dead.
Oh my gosh.
So and Galaxy Quest brought all that up, so I love that movie. That's one of the reasons why I love the movie.
And one of the reasons why you had us watch it as a team building exercise one time.
Well, you knew that was coming.
Yes. She did?
I did. I totally did.
She's had two separate.
I don't think I've made the multimedia guys watch it, but I'm sure they have.
The two separate departments you.
Oh yes,
oh my gosh.
It was how to get along with your coworkers. That was the lesson.
Oh my God. Check behind the rock.
Check behind the rock.
Stop kissing the women.
Right.
Avoid puddles.
Yeah. Pay attention to the plans.
Yeah.
With the big choppers. Yeah. And the other thing, the interesting thing with that was, probably I think it was late 80s. I went to my first Star Trek convention. I had a friend that said, "Hey, I have tickets. You want to go?" I said, I was in, when you said you had tickets, so you should have been prepared to offer them to me. So, and it was interesting. It was in New York, and I had never been to any type of convention like that. And for some reason, I thought it was going to be similar to watching Star Trek, when I was younger. And I learned 2 things from that convention: that you have to keep your game face on and not show an expression of being startled. And you also have to pay attention to who the headliner of the show is, because that dictates what you're going to see at that Star Trek convention.
Oh, those are some good tips.
Right.
Wow. Who was the headliner of that show?
It was Michael Dorn, I think, played Lieutenant Worf.
Yeah.
And
so lots of Klingons.
80%.
Wow.
Klingons. And
nice.
you had some like the weekend warrior Klingons that couldn't get their foam ridges glued on properly. And then you had some pretty scary ass Klingons that looked like they stepped off set because their costumes were so detailed.
That's amazing.
And I remember coming up the escalator of this hotel and just being wide-eyed, and it opened up into a huge group of Klingon cosplayers that were yelling war chants at each other in Klingon.
Oh my God.
And then I passed another room where they were having they outfitted it with candles, and they were having some sort of weird seance-y thing, and they were speaking fluent Klingon.
It's a real developed language, so people learned it.
That was my introduction to conventions. And of course, I weaseled my way into getting like 8th row center when in front of the stage.
Nice.
And the MC was going on about the clips, and they were playing Lieutenant Worf clips from New Generation or Next Generation, and there was this strange fog. It was like this humid, misty fog in the venue. Odd, right? It was just odd. So fast forward to Galaxy Quest, and they open up and they show you all the people in the different costumes and this strange fog. And I'm like, yes, I've been there. That is real. That is real.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So Galaxy Quest, are we sure that you're not owed rights for this movie? Like, because it kind of seems like it's your experience with sci-fi in general growing up.
So when, we had Galaxy Quest, and then you had the reboot of Star Trek.
Absolutely.
And it was amazing. It was really what I wanted to see when I was 8.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get killed by anything behind the rock, and it was just a really great story, and they used the effects in a way where it wasn't just extra.
Yeah.
It was an extension of the story.
Totally.
And the opening scene, when they go from the action and all the noise, and then it's just classical music and silence, and I was like, yes.
Oh my God.
So I cry every time when I see that, and I've seen it like 10 times.
That's amazing.
And and my son likes to watch it, and he finds that I'm like, no, fast forward past the scene, I can't do it.
That's amazing.
Fast forward 10 minutes.
So now that you're a grown-up, you've gone, you've expanded your fandoms from the beginnings of Star Trek and sci-fi, Star Wars, Godzilla, Galaxy Quest, into comic books as well, and you have quite the affinity for Deadpool. I do. So why Deadpool?
Because he can say and do things that I wish I could do both publicly and at work.
Breaking the fourth wall, yeah. You mean you kind of just did it? You just went,
right?
Yep, you just broke the fourth wall.
Wouldn't you like to do some of the stuff he does at a meeting?
Oh yeah.
And then mic drop and walk out.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome.
And then
And then I got in trouble.
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Or like when someone spoils Game of Thrones for you don't watch Game of Thrones? No, that's right. You solidly don't watch Game of Thrones.
I'm pure.
But when Black Panther spoils Game of Thrones for Deadpool, he just throws him out a window. That's how that works in superhero land. You spoil stuff, you get thrown out a window.
But I have gone all this time without watching Game of Thrones.
That's actually quite impressive at this point.
Now it's like I have to go out of my way to try because you see all the commercials come up.
You have to finish now strong. Yeah. You have to avoid it the whole time. So I think it's safe to say that you have so much geek cred. You've earned your spot at the top. So do you have any advice for people who are out there looking to take their passion and make it happen?
Wow. Okay, we're going to boil this down to one thing.
Yeah. One
Goodness,
thing.
I know, you put me on the spot.
Yeah. We have a list going so far. Look behind the rocks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Avoid the puddles. Don't wear a red shirt.
No, you can't.
Well, it depends. Which Star Trek are you in?
You can wear red.
You can wear
just
red.
Just not while you're on the Enterprise. It's bad news.
Unless it's
bad news.
But unless it's TNG, because the captain wears red.
Right.
They flipped it on us.
They flipped it.
Anyway.
Right.
No, sorry. I interrupted your question.
Okay.
I totally derailed it. So,
when I went through school, I had the greatest luck to be taught by people in the industry and working artists and illustrators. And I had one professor, Tim, that pulled me aside because I was really stressing out. When I went to school, it just was my luck that my incoming class had all the sons and daughters of professional artists. So they could, close their eyes and it was beautiful. And they would paint these masterpieces. So I was struggling with that. And he pulled me aside and he said, you have to remember that it's 10% talent and 90% effort.
Yeah.
So you got to keep going.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, all right, that's profound. And what I found was that, at least in my opinion, could be different, but some people where things came easy for them, they coasted a bit. And for the people who really, really worked for it and struggled, they got a little bit further. So I would say, don't give up. You always, put your passion out there, but also just keep trying. Keep trying in different ways. If you're not successful doing one thing, you do another.
And you might get a freelance job that turns
you might get a
into
freelance
25
job.
years.
I mean,
Did you ever finish that project? Because it's been 25 years.
I did. The interesting thing, and this horribly dates me, but the project that I came out to paint was puppets, stop motion puppets for a video game company.
Wow.
Or the video game company had given us a job to do.
Yeah.
And that was to paint their puppets, their dinosaur
Wow.
puppets for the stop motion animation, because before CGI you had stop motion. So yes, I did finish that. And I had to paint 24 dinosaurs with all different stripes and patterns and colors.
And that's why she's always,
Though, that's awesome.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
it is now that you have distance on it. So I did
It's
finish that
awesome
project.
now. It
It's
was
awesome
not.
now. I did finish that project.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
You said it was 25 years. I don't know.
I mean,
Right. But so don't give up. And I went from painting, but I also was doing illustration for stationery stuff. So I had things that were published for before Amazon, Barnes and Nobles and Walden Books and the bookstores. So all that stuff where they run you down that gauntlet of nice things that you need to buy before you check out.
yes.
I was doing that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I thought in my head that that's where my path would be. I thought that I was going to do that and do children's book illustration, and fast forward, I'm out in Hollywood and doing other things.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Then I was doing toy prototyping, and that rolled into Sideshow. And now I'm doing marketing.
The rest is history.
Right.
Something that you always say to our team in an inspiring way to help us think about things more creatively or to approach things differently is you always say, get to the yes. And that's something that I hold in my head as something inspirational that you've done for me personally, but for all of us here as a team. Take something, look at it a little differently, get to the yes. And that's pretty much, to me, what you represent for us here is the yes. You said yes to the freelance job. You said yes to design. You said yes to paint. You said yes to cleaning up molds. You said yes to moving office. Everything about you is getting to the next yes. So thank you for doing that for all of us here. It's so inspirational. I can't even begin to thank you enough for being on the show. You're so awesome. And this is
She's gonna make me cry. It's the important thing of not necessarily getting to a yes, but it's the act of doing things different to see if you can make things work in a different way, and finding that goal.
Absolutely.
And your goal may not be on the intended path that you started out with. It may be on a side path where you divert it a little bit, and then you eventually get to where you're going. But it's also being able to be open for not only the choices that life throws at you, but the people that come into your life.
Absolutely.
Because I think that every time you interact with someone, there's always a learning moment.
Yeah.
So you can take something away, but you also have to be, yeah, it's a quid pro quo because you have to be open to teaching. So that, you know, when you gather all this information from moving along in your life, when someone else comes into your scope that may not have as much knowledge as you do, you need to be open to teach them what you've learned. Absolutely. And hopefully they're just as receptive to learning it. So you really should, well, my philosophy is you should be able to interact with people and have people come into your life and have them step away being better.
Yeah.
So I hope that with all the people that we worked with over the years, whether it's freelance artists or the people that have worked in-house, whether, oh my gosh, we've had people that have stayed 15, 17, 20 years with us. And some people, their journey with us was very short, but hopefully when they left with something that they didn't have when they came in. Whether it was experience, whether it was friendships, whether it was readjusting their direction, where they were going to go in their life to eventually get them to where they wanted to be. It's okay, you know, when we have people that come into the business that don't stay that long, because I kind of look at that as like, okay, we're your side path. We're not your main path, but maybe we can push you to where you thought you needed to be.
That's amazing.
So it's always like, you know, get to the yes, but also be open to what everybody has to teach you. And even, I know some people like, wow, I didn't like that person and they were mean to me, but even if the experience is negative, there's a teaching point in there as well.
Totally.
They teach you what you don't want to deal with.
Yeah, that's true. You're like, I have learned, I don't want to do that again.
I have learned that was a bad experience and I don't want to do that. But even you can't take in the good without taking in the bad as well.
Absolutely.
So you got to keep that in mind, that even some of the negative, you have to learn to kind of absorb that and figure out where that fits in your little repertoire of stuff. So.
Absolutely. Robin, thank you so much for being on the show. It was so amazing to have you on finally.
You got me on
We
video
finally got you
25
on.
years.
After 25 years, you did Sideshow Live. So thank you all out there for joining us today. We hope you have an amazing Galentine's Day. Please go out there and tell an amazing woman that you appreciate her, because that's what Galentine's Day camaraderie is all about. Thank you guys so much for watching. And Robin, I'll let you take it out. Don't forget
to let your geek side show.
Geek side show. Thank you guys.